certainly there's a lot of investment in artificial intelligence, and the idea of that robotic piece and the lack of patient contact. Obviously, that ties into the positives from a pandemic standpoint of mitigating the risk of getting the virus. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, because you have the surgical system, and then you have the additional secondary products that can tie into that, and then maybe talk a little bit about what that process looks like, because you've got this huge system, and manufacturing is one aspect of it, but then you also have to validate the systems before you can sell that piece off. So maybe you could share a little bit of insight there.
Yeah, absolutely. Without covering proprietary information, I'll try to talk in general terms, but you're absolutely right. So the product that we make is a solution for laparoscopic surgery. I'll just say that. And it enables the surgeon to have within his operating realm control of the device that is assisting with the surgery or performing the surgery. And in this space, it's, as you bring up, as we talk about the pandemic and challenges, you know, one of the things that we see in hospitals is overcrowding. Right. We see lots of, you know, in and out of patients. And when you're trying to create distance, this is one of the tools that has helped to change the market and change the way that we think about doing surgery. Right. So it does encourage that distance between the surgeon and the patient, but it's with technology that allows for clean and clean room, operating room environment compliance as well.
I believe that the physician can actually control certain aspects with his eyes, correct? Through your system.
There is a feature in the system that gives control along with the other tools that the surgeon is using for tracking eye movement as well with this robot.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah.
Now, what, from a manufacturing standpoint, from the time that you get an order for one of the systems to the point that it's actually able to be delivered, can you give us a little perspective of what that looks like in terms of making the product and then actually validating processes and systems to where it can actually be delivered?
Yeah, that's interesting. So you spoke a little bit about my background and coming from my former employer, where we were making, 400 to 500 units a day of right. 6 or 7 different types. We had definitely high volume, low mix. This manufacturing process is the opposite in a lot of ways, right? So we have low volume where we're only making one system, every so many weeks. And then we have just the one or two, I guess it really depends upon how you customize your robot. Right. We have different packages that could be configured for your usage. Mm-hmm. And so in that mix, there's one more component to it, and that is the number of items that are in the bill of materials being more than normal, than you would normally expect.
Right.
So I say all of that piece to give a little bit of background, but your question regarding the time of this manufacturing process. So the testing portion and to validate, once the actual robot, the arm, and the computer that drives the arm and all of the other components are final assembled. Once you have everything fully assembled, there is the testing and validating portion. And that piece can be extensive if there are settings that the end-of-line testing process doesn't account or keep into tying. And when I say that, I mean from the standpoint of there is a technician and then there is the testing computer. So when the technician is testing one arm, 2 arms, 3 arms, you can
Right.
imagine how you need to adjust your manufacturing process to be able to accommodate for that. So do you up the number of test tools that you have? In some cases you may, or do you, to avoid the increased labor that typically people would throw at a situation like that. So we've come up with some creative ways to put in-process testing in, validate that process, and then also to put in, set it up in a way that we don't have to add additional technicians every time we have a new process to be included in this testing, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Hear me, won't you speak to me when I open up? And I forward my thoughts to you, but sometimes I say you're thinking too much, and I don't wanna hide on this.